What's up, everyone? It's Greg, the host of the Opportunity Podcast. And today I am bringing on a good buddy of mine and friend. He mentors a lot of people on how to start buying small digital businesses, and that's Matt Raad. So, Matt and his wife Liz, they've been business partners for a long, long time. I've done content for their community. They've had students come and buy and sell with us over the years. And really, really cool dude. He started off actually in brick and mortar M&A, and then he moved into this whole crazy digital world. So Matt's really, really smart dude. He has a lot of cool things to talk about. And I pretty much agree with everything he says on this podcast. It's basically stuff that I've said to a lot of people as well, if they want to really grow in this kind of new environment that we're in. So pretty much 100% in agreement with what he's talking about there. But with that said, I will stop talking and get off my soapbox here so you can actually go and listen to Matt. So with that said, I will see you on the other side. All right. Welcome to another episode. I have a very special guest and a good friend of mine, Matt Raad, here on the podcast. Matt, welcome to the opportunity, my friend. We've had some pretty cool conversations with your community. But for people in my audience that don't know who you are, why don't you introduce yourself and where you are in the world right now?
Sure. So great to have me on, Greg. It is awesome to be here. We have had some great conversations, haven't we? So my background is I'm in business with my wife, Liz, have been for 30 years, which is quite unusual in and of itself. But what's really unusual about us is Liz and I started out from the country here in Australia, rural Australia, and we met at uni studying zoology. And then we got into buying and selling businesses. So we've been buying and selling businesses for 30 years. That's how we've made our money. And in particular, in early 2000s, we pivoted from bricks and mortar businesses over to online businesses. And these days we teach beginners. We love teaching beginners how to do it. And in a nutshell, that's the thing we're passionate about, because when we got online, we're from the country, we hadn't grown up with computers. We really struggled. So now we love helping beginners like us who never really made money online before. We help them get online businesses in some way, shape, or form. There's lots of different strategies they can do it these days.
Well, let's unpack that a bit. So zoology, I don't think I knew that part about your story. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So you started off buying brick and mortar businesses. Maybe talk to me a bit about that journey and where the pivot led into digital businesses. Because now you're pretty much all digital that you're buying, right?
Yeah, we're all digital now. And well, that's a really good question, and it's a great way to lead off, because it's what our journey buying bricks and mortar businesses is what dictated our strategy when we went online. And Greg, you might have to close your ears for a minute here, but we're not fans of e-commerce websites because of our bricks and mortar experience. So here's why. When we started out in business, our very first business we bought was a manufacturing business. So it's literally building widgets, for $1 and selling them for $2 or $3. And you think you're going to make lots of money doing that. It doesn't work that way. It was really, really difficult. We made lots of mistakes when we bought it. We nearly went bankrupt many times or several times. And we're always in debt to the bank because we're go-getters. All our net worth, though, kept having to go back into physical inventory, which sits in a warehouse somewhere, typically in a pretty sketchy part of Sydney in Australia. And, everything's sitting in a warehouse, and then we're relying on shipping because we're exporting as well, and relying on the weather because we were in the outdoor power equipment niche. It was very, very challenging, but we absolutely loved it. Don't get me wrong. We loved it. It was very difficult as young entrepreneurs. And then we got really good at it. We systemized it. And we eventually renovated it, 10 years. But in that 10-year journey, we also bought and sold other wholesale import businesses, because back then in our lives, and to this day, the number one thing we were looking for was not just financial freedom, but we wanted freedom to work the hours that we want. We never wanted to work 9 to 5. So we were always attracted to wholesale import businesses or manufacturing, because we had like mentors. That's what they did, and they bought multiple ones, and we wanted to emulate them. And, a bit like the Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki's the quadrant, over in that right-hand quadrant, the investor quadrant. We were literally hanging around guys that were doing exactly that, but with wholesale import businesses and at the multi-million-dollar level. This is here in Australia. As young entrepreneurs, like I said, we found it very difficult cash flow wise. We didn't come from family money or anything. So we had to fund it ourselves. And yeah, being in debt to the bank in the end, it was just, we did well, but I wouldn't advise a beginner go down that route. If you're listening to this, don't make the same mistake Liz and I did. So therefore, when we discovered the online space back in early 2000s, we realized we could do exactly what our mentors were doing, but with these beautiful online businesses, mainly content sites like affiliate and advertising sites. And we realized we could buy up a portfolio just like they used to with wholesale import businesses and without having to go into big debts to the bank. So we started out buying small sites and then moved into bigger sites. And I've got to say that went exponential for us. That worked brilliantly because we've done all the hard yards though. So for listeners, please hear me here. You remember before we got online, we'd already had 15 odd years full on hardcore business experience, buying and selling bricks and mortar businesses. And also we worked as brokers in M&A with private equity firms our specialty was helping high net worths purchase wholesale import businesses with EBITs of around $1 million to $2 million here in Australia. I know, Greg, in America, that's quite a small business, but here in Australia, that was pretty cool back in its day. That was pretty cool, 20 years ago?
I still think it's cool, man.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, it is. Yeah.
I gotta say with your manufacturing e-commerce thing, whenever someone brings up the woes of e-commerce, I always think of this business buyer of ours. He's such a lovely dude, like one of the most charismatic guys I've ever met. And he's buying up a lot of Amazon FBA businesses from us. This is before the aggregator craze, so before they got like super overpriced. But he was like, I love all these Amazon FBA entrepreneurs. They're all so young, they're crushing it, making a ton of money, and they're all completely broke because they're just reinvesting so much to get to that economies of scale, right? He had like private capital lines, so it was easy for him once he acquired this. For everyone else, it's like credit cards, like blah, 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 blah.
See, that can change the game, but that managing that cash flow and just managing physical inventory. So that's seriously why when we got online, we got online before all you brokers existed. And we literally just did exactly what we did with bricks and mortar businesses, but we bought online businesses and far out it was easier. It was so much quicker. Like literally within 12 months, we were just going, this is like God's gift to entrepreneurs. And because there were no brokers, we just did what we used to do with bricks and mortar businesses. So with bricks and mortar businesses, we would literally get in the car and drive around industrial areas and door knock or check out businesses and go, okay, that's going to be a good one. Normally they're just little, iron shacks, but you can just tell by the amount of cars in the front and you see the signs and what they do. And then we send them a private letter. So we got really good at doing private approaches. So when we got online, there was no brokers. And so we literally virtual door knocked. We privately emailed primarily American website owners. And it was great. We made so many friends. That's when we realized American business people are so friendly. They loved us Aussies. And we were quite nervous. Some of these businesses were pretty big. Some of the niches we went into, they were leading websites. And we were that naive. We just started approaching them. But we got on really well with them. People were really friendly. They were giving us tips and teaching us all about their niches. And here we were saying, look, we're going to buy up a bunch of websites in your niche. That was the big difference between bricks and mortar and the online space. I think there was much more of a community. And I still see that today. I know people say the world's changed, but I think, as you would know, Greg, like I know you've got lots of friends in all sorts of niches, but when you get into certain niches, you do tend to get to know the other players there and you become, I guess, frenemies or, you become quite friendly with them and you help each other out. And so that to us was an eye-opener as well. But it worked really well. And to this day, we still, as much as we love brokers, don't get me wrong, Empire Flippers rock. And if you're buying or definitely if you're selling, you definitely need Empire Flippers like a broker. But to this day, I admit I still really like doing the private approach as well. Never, ever sell a business yourself. That's not a smart thing to do. That's one big thing we learned as young entrepreneurs. Never try.
I think brokers make the selling process way better. Unless you're a broker yourself, that's good. But in terms of like, you saying, brokers are still good. I just want to clarify the only broker that's good is Empire Flippers. So for everyone in the audience, don't go
Good.
anywhere else.
That's right. Good answer.
You're either doing private or you're buying a few 7-figure businesses from Greg. This is the only
Yep.
path. But no, I always tell people, like, because there's the gurus or like, oh, brokers are like evil, only do off market deal, right? And
No,
like,
no, 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 no.
I totally get where they're coming from, by the way. Like, especially in the brick and mortar space, like a lot of brokers are similar to real estate agents, right? Who, like, maybe
That's
they don't
true.
really know a lot what's going on, right? But
Yep.
in general, I think like my best buyers who buy a lot, they'll do the cold approach, like what you're talking about, like their own proprietary deal flow, but also brokers. So in our
Yeah.
CRM, their attribution is like marketing source broker. It's just like all the
Yep.
brokers together, right? So I
Yeah.
always recommend people to do both if you're trying to be prolific, because a good deal is a good deal. Like even if you go with a broker and let's say there is a price inflation, it's like, okay, maybe you pay 10% extra, but like if you're growing the business by 20% year over year, like that's
Yeah.
like pennies.
And access to the deals that you get through you guys and the quality of your listings it saves
Yeah.
people a lot of time. There's a big trust factor there. And I will back that up for your listeners, having been in the bricks and mortar side of M&A. It's nothing like the online space of M&A. Online space of M&A, you guys are awesome, very trustworthy, very knowledgeable, very helpful, especially for our beginners. So we coach a lot of beginners and we get all the feedback. What's it like? And they love it. I think if for anyone who's beginner to intermediate, not using a broker would be a big mistake. It would be a
Yeah.
very, very big mistake.
I agree. Like, again, back to my favorite gurus or lambasting against the brokers, and like they know what they're talking about for the most part. But, when you're brand new, there's so much to buy in business, whether it's brick and mortar or digital, is like find a good broker. Because like at least that
Yeah.
can like that's like free education on the process, right? And
Yep.
it gives you a lot more reps, like you can go on Biz by Sell or just our marketplace even and do practice due diligence, right? Without like doing anything. But to go like deeper into the process for your first time, like why make it harder on yourself trying to do all these crazy deal structures when you've never done a single deal yet? I
Yeah.
think that's where a lot of people fail personally. But
I think they do. They need the right advice. And that's the thing. When Liz and I first started in business, we got all the wrong advice. So,
as you do. Yeah.
yeah, well, unfortunately, we're in a country town. So we used a country town accountant. And Greg,
No.
guess where his practice was? It was next to the local pub. So is that what you call it in America? Yeah, local hotel.
I was like the
So,
divorce attorney with next to the liquor store,
yeah.
the payday loan store.
And literally, when we walked in, he's got the ashtray, chain smoking, and you had the smoke, and if you didn't get him before lunch, he's down the pub and he starts to get drunk and everything. And then he told us this business that we're buying was good on the figures, and as you know, the way you interpret figures is very, very
Oh
important,
yeah.
particularly with physical inventory businesses with long lead times, and it just completely messed it up. And we had no idea what we're doing. We're totally new. We'd never been in business. We're
The drunk
farmers. Like,
lawyer told me it's good. I'm buying this thing.
yeah, yeah. So don't do what we did, which is go to the wrong advisor. And ever since then, we've been passionate now about teaching people the importance of doing good due diligence and learning how to do proper due diligence and get the proper advice as well. And we love empowering people, though, that to this day, because we weren't empowered back then, and took us 20 odd years to really perfect buying and selling businesses. And that's what we want to be able to teach people now is, doing good due diligence is a massive, massive money-making skill for the future, particularly now because the world is changing so much. I think there's so much opportunities for people in your community listening, to this podcast. Anyone's interested in online businesses, far out. If you know how to do good due diligence, the world's your oyster. Particularly, say, if a recession comes up or something, you are just absolutely laughing because we've been through a few recessions in our career. It's the best time to buy up businesses.
I agree.
Just floating that out there. I'm not saying there's going to be a recession. I know things are good now and everything. But
you find out that the recession happened after it's over because no one wants to say it's a recession while it's happening, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh shit,
Yeah.
okay. But
Yeah.
yeah, I agree totally, man. I think due diligence is probably in the probably the top three skills for a business buyer. I would say like deal flow and buyer criteria. I kind of combine those two. Whether you're doing off market, on market, due diligence, and then deal structure. Like understanding like deal structure, and especially if you understand creative financing. And like due diligence is what allows you to make a way better offer. Because I always tell people you should justify your offer based on your due diligence, right? So
Yeah.
I think that makes total sense. So let's move a bit into that. So if someone
Okay.
comes to you, maybe they're brand new to digital investing. I kind of want to combine a couple questions here. So the first part of that is like, what would be an ideal high cash flow, debt free business look like for this like newbie coming into the space? And like you and I were old hat with SEO, affiliate sites, and stuff like that. And
My
there's a bunch
favorite.
of a bunch of volatility happening there, as we know,
There
currently
is.
with like AI. So I'm assuming your advice from a few years ago would be somewhat different today. So walk me
It,
through that.
it is tricky. It's not definitely not as easy as what it used to be. But interestingly, see, it depends who the client is. If they're totally new to business, I still have concerns with them buying an e-commerce site unless it's a small one, or a drop shipper can work really, really well. At the end of the day, my mission is, depending on who it is to make sure they're learning digital skills. So I still now, and I'm still saying to people, buy a small content site to learn the ropes and then just resell it or get it, learn digital skills, how to put together websites, how to do basic SEO, and watch the effects of what you're seeing out there. So that's at a very beginner level. We are now saying to people, be careful of buying bigger content sites unless you know what you're doing, because it is so volatile. But interestingly, Greg, we are seeing still some amazing results with people buying small sites, like under 20 grand. And that's why it's so cool that you guys have got Money Nomads, and that's what I got you to talk to my community about. Honestly, I still recommend a total beginner. If you've got a bit of money, go on to Money Nomads and look at some of the sites and buy those sorts of sites that are on there. There's some, and ideally though, to keep it safe, we have a strategy to keep it, I can't say safe. I'm not allowed to say that, but like to keep it
Risk free. You will never have to worry
but
about
safe
anything.
as a what we've always found, and it's funny, we've always bought these sorts of sites, is try and, because of AI, you need to be buying sites that have some like genuineness about them, some reason why people would come there, some form of a difference. And what we find is working really well is these smaller sites under 20K, making anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a month, and they can renovate them with AI, but they have a bit of a social media following, or they have, like, they're in a passion niche. That's what I was going to say. That's really what we're finding, is that seems to work really well. By the way, for your listeners, that's what Liz and I have always bought, passion sites, like in crafting, golf niche, guitar niche. You got the guitar in the background there. Been in that niche a few times. Anything in gardening, anything where people are passionate about, kind of like hobby sites, because the sellers are typical people that have owned those sites for a long time. They've been hit with the Google updates. They don't care anymore. They just want to get rid of it, or they're over it and they sell them off at a really fair price. It's not about necessarily getting bargain prices. It's just, remember, our goal is helping someone new to this learn in the safest way possible. And it means they're not taking a big risk. So I'll touch wood, that is still currently working really well. Even like right up to now, we're getting some really cool success stories with clients buying very simple websites that are making anywhere from $50 to $500 a month. They're buying them, renovating them with AI, which is absolutely brilliant. They learn all the skills. They basically double them, or they solidify it in Google. Because I think those small sites are kind of, they make money despite themselves. They're under the Google radar, and they've got traffic coming in. Weirdly, we see big success with Pinterest. That's an unusual one, but
Everyone
Facebook.
gets on me for saying Pinterest. No one believes me when I like
Yeah,
what would you do with an affiliate site if Google went away? Like Pinterest, like we
Pinterest is
told,
huge. It's
yeah,
worked
it's massive.
really
Like if you're
well.
in a visual niche, it's amazing. We tried to do at EF, but it's like the wrong niche for Pinterest. But I have a lot of friends that just crush it with Pinterest traffic. Like,
Yeah, we get heaps of clients that are doing
yeah,
that. And the cool thing for beginners, because we don't teach Pinterest, what do? They go on to Upwork and hire someone to help them. Like, it's all hands free. There are
Sure.
just heaps of VAs on Upwork that can run Pinterest. So most of our successful clients, they just hire a VA to run the whole Pinterest side. And that's turned into, we've got one client, he's FIFO, he works on mine sites, and you would know about that with your
Oh yeah.
background on oil rigs.
My little mineral brother, mineral
Yeah,
extraction brother.
yeah. So he started this site about gas barbecues because he loves, here in Australia, it's a big thing, barbecuing and stuff. He's grown it with Pinterest. What did he say to us? I think it's like 150,000. He's getting traffic of like 150,000 or something off his
Wow.
pins. And I'm going, hang on, I think you got the number wrong. And he goes, no, it is, Matt. And like, it's Pinterest that's driving all this traffic, which I had not seen in that niche before, even in barbecue. So one thing we are saying though, Greg, is we definitely are telling people now, for beginners when they want to get started, don't go the standard old-fashioned route, old-fashioned only like 2 years ago, of buying a bog standard review site. It needs to have something extra. There's got to be a realness to it. So those days are probably gone, just buying outright review sites. Having said that, we've got a client, Ashleen. She just bought a bog standard. She proved me wrong. She bought a bog standard site about fishing reviews, and the thing is making $500 a month, day in, day out. And she's just tied it up with AI. So they're under the radar, those ones. But I don't recommend you buy a bog standard review site anymore. But content sites and sponsored sites are still working quite well at a small level for beginners.
I agree with all of that. And to the person that proved you wrong, I think there's always exceptions, right? But it's not like the model doesn't work anymore. It's just
No.
that it's
Yeah.
riskier, right? Like I think that's the reality of it. Like we still see them, right? Like, and even
Yep.
on the high level, I think last time you and I spoke, we just sold a a 7-figure content site.
Yeah.
And to what you're saying, like that site had that going on where they actually did have a really interesting thing there. I mean, it's like I think it was like 95% monetized through just standard Google AdSense and affiliate type of stuff. But that
Yep.
extra 4% was that little digital course they had on Udemy. You'd like take that off of Udemy, put it on the website, like instead of charging like $3-4 to like even just 19, the traffic to that thing, like, whoa.
That is cool. And that's what we love teaching exactly for your listeners. I got Greg to speak to our community about exactly that deal, because that's the sort of thing we love teaching our guys is look for the opportunities out there now. The passion sites that people are kind of want to move on from, and you realize, hang on, with that traffic and the social traffic they're getting, it comes with anything with a list is
Yeah.
a lot
Yep.
safer now.
Yep.
And when you find the right assets, and you go, I can add in an info course of some kind, that's gold. That's when you're getting actual virtual assets at a really great price. Again, I want to reiterate, it's not always about getting bargains or anything like that. It's just about finding the right assets that you can then work with. And that seems to be working really well for our guys at the moment.
100%. I think a lot of people, when they look at digital products, they always think of like big, expensive, like marketing info courses. Certainly, I have a little bit of that perception, but like you can do this in so many different niches. A couple years ago, just for fun, like I created a Dungeons and Dragons product, digital product, because I'm a big
Yep.
nerd, right? I made like $5,000 with it. So, like,
Yeah.
I should have kept going with it, but I got distracted, got too busy.
That's trending now amongst millennials. Dungeons and Dragons has made a huge comeback. It's a
Oh, it's
good
massive.
niche.
Massive. Yeah. When I was in school, I started playing fifth grade. It was like a bit weird to play it
Yep.
still. And then in high school, one of my buddies, he lost all this weight and joined the football team and became like the popular kid at school. But he was like, him and I were like super close friends. We'd play D&D every weekend. So him and I like convinced like all the other football players to play D&D with us. Like, oh,
Yeah.
that's actually pretty cool. So it took off in my generation in a big way. So
And it's made a big comeback. And so those sorts of niches where there's real followings and people want real info, I think we're seeing in our community, there's still great opportunities buying those sites, being smart and thinking about the strategy of what you can do with the site. And it's
absolutely.
got to have a unique angle to it that you can put to it now, though. So bog standard review sites, they're never going to really grow that much and they may not last the distance. But if what we're saying to people is, we've got a rule, I'll give your audience the rule that we have in our due diligence list is, if you can't figure out, it doesn't have to come with an email list, right? But if you can't figure out how to add an email list to that website, I would probably move on, particularly if you're a beginner, but even if you're advanced. So what I mean by that is say you've got a barbecue review site, from the old days. I mean, really, that's a pretty tricky one to add an email. Like, I'm not going to sign up I don't need someone to send me a weekly newsletter about the best barbecues reviews. Whereas if we've done a lot in the crafting niche, like if it's in crochet, I'm just thinking also we've got clients that have done really well in the crochet niche. I'm signing up for that crochet website. Or if it was in Dungeons and Dragons, I'm definitely signing up for that. Or if it's in golf, I'm signing up. Like, it's effortless. So the website doesn't have to necessarily come with a list, but it's got to have the potential for a list. And I think that's a really good asset for people to start looking at. But of course, if the site already comes with a list, you're laughing.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And in the example of the barbecue stuff, like if you're looking at a website that is all the reviews, like your email newsletter doesn't necessarily have to be sending new reviews, right? Like to your point, like a lot of people aren't going to sign up for that. But there's probably a creative way you can spin that, like maybe you can go out and find people that do like those crazy coupons for different stuff,
Yep.
where it's like join my barbecue list and get like all
Yeah.
these sauces or whatever, right? You
I've
can
actually seen that work.
creative ways to figure it out.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
I was talking to a guy last night. He's looking to sell next year. So I was giving him some exit planning advice. He's doing like, a little bit over 30 grand a month with all AdSense. Actually, not AdSense, but basically AdSense model. And it's all direct traffic. Yeah, it's like no SEO, it's all direct traffic. Like, wow, that's crazy.
Wow.
And I asked him about email lists. Like, no. And this site's been around for a long time, like probably 15 years, right? People just type it in. It has like a whole subculture going to this website. Like, dude, like,
That is cool.
crush this with an email list. It's like perfect niche as well for like a super enthusiast, passionate, group of people. Like, man, what are you doing? You could be making like 90 grand a month in this thing.
See, and that's something you just mentioned there too, like that sub niche idea. That's what we've always been big on. That we've always done really well by going very micro niche within, So I'm just thinking. I literally just did a coaching call with him today. Nathan bought. This was a few years ago. He bought a gardening site. He's bought a few, but he bought an Australian native garden site, and it was a passion site. Been around for 14 years. And he was looking for backlinking opportunities, and he noticed this guy hadn't updated the blog in ages. So he just reached out and said, would you be interested in selling? And the guy said, sure, $400. So he bought it for $400. And then, of course, because he already knew that niche so well and his team's already on it, they renovated it, and that thing's getting around 80,000 visitors a month in the peak season, like in spring and stuff, and making about $4,000 a month in its heyday, like in its peak. So, those sorts of opportunities are out there. You've just got to know what you're looking for. And I think too, as the world changes, if you've got that base level of digital skills and you know how all this stuff works, see how you and I are just talking about it, it's effortless. We kind of get it. And that's, if for your listeners, once you understand how all this space works, I think even as the world changes, and obviously AI is the big disruptor, it's also a big enabler for us. But then combined with, economic changes, I think there's some really, really good opportunities coming up for those that are educated and know how to do good due diligence and, pick out the good stuff. And like you said too, Greg, that's a really good point, is structuring the deals in the right way too, particularly, like when people need to do seller finance and things like that, or get more desperate to sell their businesses. I think there's some real opportunities there coming up as well. It hasn't hit us yet, but next recession, you watch what happens.
Well, you'll find out about the next recession after it's over.
Yeah. Well, I've been through two of them, and they're tough. But when you've got cash, it's a great time. It's where Warren Buffett makes most of his money.
Oh, 100%. You buy when there's blood in the streets type of mentality, right? I love the little like buying the $400 passion site. So I had a customer a few years ago. I don't know if this would work. I think it still works, but he just bought, like similar to your student, a bunch of people's passion blogs that were like on page 2, page 3, a lot of backlinks, a lot of love, a lot of good content that he was able to repurpose. So he basically got all these backlinks and all this content for next to nothing. Like when you really add it up, and he 401 them to his main website. And he sold that website with me. I think it was only 2 years old by the time he sold it with me. It was like a little bit over $500,000,
Right. Yes.
So yeah, it works.
They're still out there. So we are seeing our clients buying those sorts of sites, they're definitely not on page one of Google. They're never going to be. They're
Right.
on page like 5 or 6. And that's actually where Liz and I, even 10 years ago, were buying websites on. We didn't always buy the top sites on page one in the niches we're in. Because we knew the niches so well, we would deliberately privately approach people way down in the Google rankings because their site's not worth much.
Right. And they've likely given up or willing to part with it. Yeah.
They'd have all the assets. They'd have real backlinks, real content, and often a good social media or the foundations of a good social media following. And I think that's still a really good place to start for a beginner out there.
So talk to me about deal structures for beginners. Like obviously, in my world, like we still sell smaller businesses, of course, but a lot of them are, 500K and up. The deal structures
Yep.
can be a bit intense if you're brand new at
Yep.
times, especially because financing is a difficult part in digital businesses in general. But walk me through what the deal looks like that you usually instruct your students on, like an average deal, say.
Yeah. So average deal, when they're small, they tend to be cash buyers. Like for our American clients, it's a lot easier because the American dollar is so strong. Australian clients, that's a bit tougher. But cash is a really good tool to negotiate with in any business deal. So if you know something's good, it can serve you really well to be a 100% cash buyer. So I'm used to that from the bricks and mortar world, how we used to do, we're doing much bigger deals. And I saw also my mentors use that as a very, very powerful negotiating tactic. And yeah, cash up front works really well. Now, in America, of course, you guys are big in vendor finance and you call it seller financing. We call it vendor finance here in Australia.
Oh, you call it seller finance vendor finance. When I hear vendor finance, I think supplier finance.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
It's not as big here in Australia. So I've often got to educate sellers and buyers on, hey, vendor finance is the way to go here. And for beginners, if they've never done it before, we just keep it really simple. We often just say to them, look, to be able to negotiate, how about you just offer half up front and then offer to pay them $5,000 a month for the next 6 months for a
Yeah.
typical deal under 50K or something like that. And that seems to work really well. It's a win-win for both parties. It's very straightforward. I mean, Empire Flippers are brilliant at Empire Flippers are the best broker for setting those sorts of deals
You've
up.
heard it here first, folks. We're the best.
Yeah. So, but that's a really good typical way that we use to train like beginners when they do their first kind of vendor finance deal, so no one's freaking out, including the seller, by the way, as well. So it just like half up front, offer them, $5,000 a month for 5 months or 6 months or whatever, half a year. And we've ourselves have bought lots of sites in that way, or vice versa, sold sites like that too.
Yeah.
It's a really simple structure. Doesn't need complex paperwork or anything. And the sellers are really happy because they're getting $5,000 a month, or it might be $10,000 a month, something like that.
Right.
But on those smaller ones, that seems to work really well.
Yeah, that it works even on the higher end, I'd say too. Again, back to my favorite guru. So he's talking about like the no money out of pocket deals and no money down deals, and those deals do exist, right? But again, it goes back to like if you are brand new to buying a business, like how can you expect to one find a deal because they tell you not to use a broker, right? Get the seller to open up like you've never talked to a seller before, and like do this crazy complex deal structure that is like super creative financing, which does work, but it's like a pretty advanced skill. Like,
Yeah.
dude, like all you need is seller financing, or as our Australian friends call it, vendor financing,
Yeah.
and earnouts. And then the third one, if you are looking to buy e-commerce, if you're American, at least buy an American business, SBA loans are
Yeah.
another very good path, right?
Yes.
For getting leverage. And those are like, I would say, the main three ways people get into businesses in terms
Yeah.
of their deal structures.
And I will mention, Greg, in our community, what we tell our guys as well, and for your listeners, anyone that's kind of beginner to intermediate, on smaller deals, because we're getting these guys to focus on smaller deals, the no money down thing is non-existent.
No
Forget
way.
it.
You can't
If
do it
you
in that
can't,
small of a
there's
business.
no,
Yeah.
there's no seller, is there, that's going to take a no money down deal off a
Right.
beginner.
Right.
I think people hear all these gurus saying you can buy businesses with no money down. You can't. It doesn't work
Yeah.
that way. Not with small ones.
Like, so the secret, though, you probably know this since your background in M&A, but like there really are businesses that are making tons of revenue that people sell for $1. It happens all the
Yeah,
time,
yeah,
but
it
they're
does.
terrible businesses.
Yeah.
They're making millions in revenue and losing
Yeah.
hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like that's why they
Yep.
sold for $1, right?
Yep.
Like the private equity firm is like, please just get this away from me. Oh, like,
Get
yes,
this
take it.
get this out of here. That's right.
So like, yeah, you can do it, but as a newbie, you should definitely not do this. Like, I never
Yep.
recommend ever buying a turnaround. Even if you're skilled, it's a pretty hard thing to actually turn it around.
It is. Yeah. All things being equal, we like people to try and buy sites that have got existing traffic and
Yeah.
existing foundations for social media channels that are feeding existing traffic in as well. And I think that's probably the safer way to get started.
So, how do you think about post acquisition risk and growth? So, I
Mhm.
always tell people a business only has two paths, either closes or someone sells it, right? There's a change of hands, right? Maybe they don't sell, they give it to someone or something, but
Yep.
something is happening where you won't own it forever. So, for your students, when they acquire something, do you have like a growth plan that you work out with them?
Yes.
Like, okay, this is what we're going to do for the next 24 months, and then we're going to exit. Like, walk me through what you advise your students post acquisition.
Okay, so what we teach is, because remember, we're trying to give them the basic digital skills, we
Yeah,
get them to do an initial makeover of the website. So typically, most of these passion sites aren't really well set up for optimization or for optimizing clicks and or traffic. We do the traffic next, but the initial step is a kind of a makeover with basic, what would I call it, like on-page SEO principles in mind, but also with optimization principles in mind. So directing people to what is the actual call to action of the website. What are we call it the three core purpose areas of the website. Just often on big sites, it can be 6 to 9 to 12 core purpose areas. But on these smaller sites, it's pretty simple to get a beginner to realize, okay, that site's about sewing. Okay, one main big area of that website is sewing machines. The other one is patterns. And the other one is new techniques or new products or something like that. Or it might be the community thing. So we get them to think about that, and then we get them to rebuild the homepage, which is the makeover. And in doing that, they're learning really cool skills, like the fun stuff, rebuilding the website. They've got to hire a techie to help them, or they can do it themselves. They learn so much from that. And in that, then we're getting them to also audit the on-page SEO factors and go over the content and start tidying it up. So that'd be like the next phase over the next 6 months, say, is because a lot of these people are working, they're doing this
sure.
part-time in the
Yeah.
evenings. So we don't want them doing everything at once. And they just, honestly, they burn out. They get into overload. So what we do then is to get them, the next phase is that on-page SEO, content audit, look for the gaps, all the usual thing that people do when we renovate a website. And also at that time is be thinking about, and you should be doing this for your listeners, you should be doing this when you do your due diligence too, is planning out what is the renovation here look like SEO wise, but in particular monetization. What else can we do with this website over this next, say, 6 to 12 months? So we're not about doing fast flips. That it doesn't really work for beginners. I don't think it's a great strategy, and they don't get the learnings that they need. So we tend to say to people, have a 12-month plan with the website when you bring it, even if it's a small one, doesn't matter. You're still learning. It's like going back to uni and doing a diploma at night. This is something that you do part-time in the evening. And then also in that, the next phase then is part of that tidying up the content is creating new content and also the new channels. So it's not just content on a website, because in this day and age, the good old days are gone where we could literally get beginners, even just 2 years ago, just post new and better content and really high quality content. It would rank. That doesn't
Oh
work
yeah, it's sort
anymore.
of just updating the content, right? Like it was
Yeah.
much easier.
Yeah. Well, those days are gone. So what we're getting them to think about is, in addition to the content that they're going to put on the website, is how they're going to build out the list or the community aspect. We call it a community. So it's either social media coming in. For your listeners that can't see me at the moment, I'm kind of dragging in all these different points of contact on the internet. And so we call that, for beginners' sake, we say, look, you've got to think about the SEO footprint and where does it sit in the internet and where else can we get traffic from. And all throughout this, though, what's really cool now is AI has Gosh, it's good now. Even with beginners, we are seeing amazing results in terms of the content that they get. As long as they're not pumping out AI slop and, heaps of it,
Yeah.
if they're smart with it. So what we're trying to do is educate people to produce useful stuff, like Google wants in the Google's heat guidelines. And you can do that now with AI. And particularly, it's very powerful for helping building these other properties that help drive in traffic. And then through that, they've learnt then the essence of renovating a website. It's not perfect and it is harder than what it used to be, definitely. But it works really well on these small passion sites. And then just building on that. And then they've got to figure out, okay, if we want to go next level with this, what we're saying then is you need to go to the branding point where you need to think about it. How much effort are you prepared to put in there? Do you want to get yourself out there on the internet or, start a YouTube channel or a podcast with it, where you've got to see how that renovation goes and if it's worthwhile to go to the next level with it.
Yeah, I think that all makes a lot of sense to me. And, learning those skills, even when you, like, say your students graduate, start buying bigger businesses, right? Like the skill's the same. It's just a
Yeah,
different level of scale,
it is.
Like what you do for on-page SEO on one website, you just do it again on the bigger
Do it
e-commerce or
again.
whatever, right? And I do think like, so I'm glad you brought this up and that you look at this in due diligence, because that's another thing I tell people all the time. Like, you should always be having the real power with buying a business is different than buying like a real estate rental property. Like that's like stable income. Like it's very rarely ever
Yeah.
going to go down. But business can go down, but it can go way, way, way up. Like there's no
Yep.
ceiling, right? So that's the asymmetric bet. So like as you do due diligence, I always tell buyers like look for all the things that are wrong, because one, you can make a better offer in terms of like what you're actually risking, but two, that like informs like what am I going to do with this thing when I actually
Yeah.
acquire it, right? Like, oh, I see there's a
Yep.
lot of things messed up over here, so that's a area for focus, right? So yeah, I agree with everything you're saying there. In terms of like, and you mentioned a lot of people are doing this part-time with their jobs and
Yeah.
stuff, which also makes sense. I guess that kind of like will make people realize the whole passive income thing, it's not exactly that passive, right? So
No,
that's a
it's not.
good that's a
It
good thing.
I think it is a good thing, and you're right. I mean, well, it's kind of sad, really, because it has changed now. Like when we got online, your listeners don't want to hear this, but far out, it was easy. Like compared to what it is now, we
Yeah.
literally, actually, to this day, we still have websites that we've held for more than a decade. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, there is small ones, and every month they still pay out $1,000 a month, and it
Yeah.
is just mind blowing. And we don't touch them; they're truly passive. But they're from the old days. They rank really well. They've found their place in Google, and they don't tend to move that much. But the passive thing, it's now very much semi-passive. Even with a semi-passive website, you need to be working on it, once a month. You need to do a bit of a tweak to it and show it some love. Otherwise, it's just not going to survive. And there is so much opportunity. So that's why I think people now need to test the waters a little bit with their websites and play with renovating them, because it is a lot of fun, but you got to put some effort into it. It's
Yeah.
not, in the old days, you literally could buy these sites, do the makeover, set some auto, content to be posted on it by your VA once a month, and you were set. And or sometimes you didn't even have to post any new content if you did a really good renovation.
Oh yeah, so many sites where people have updated them in like
Yeah,
years, right? So,
don't touch them in a year or so, and they
yeah.
still tick along,
Yeah.
and they're the brilliant assets to buy. By the way, if you do see those, they're really good assets. If despite all the changes that have happened, and you're finding websites where the traffic's still nice and steady and it's still making good
Oh
money,
yeah.
that's probably a really, really good asset. And they're the
Yeah.
sort of things that, we're looking for. And typically we see those in these sub niches with good followings and stuff in passion niches.
Yeah, the traffic has stayed relatively stable over the last 3 years with like because Google has been so chaotic. Like that's a really good sign that Google like really likes this website. It's no
Yeah,
guarantee that maybe one day they won't, right? But
no.
it's definitely a good sign. But yeah, I remember like way back in the day, dude, 2016, when I first started at EF, I was writing about passive income on the blog, and Justin would get so mad at me about it. It's like, what do you
Yep.
mean? It is passive. Like they haven't like a lot of our sellers haven't touched their sites at first. He's like, I just don't want it because it's not truly passive. Like he was like, there's no true passive income. Like, okay, well, 401ks aren't passive income then. He's like, what? No,
Yeah.
it is. Like, no, it's not. You got to log in every now and then. You're
You got to
kind of like
log in.
checking on it. So like, that's also a passive. Like, that's
Yeah.
not what I mean. Like, well, that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
But it's like one of our many debates over the years. But nowadays, I don't think there's that much, or like there's still passivity in terms of like time leverage. Like,
Yep.
once you get one of these sites going, yeah, you might be working on it a little bit more than you were a few years ago. But once you get it going, it's like, okay, I mean, you're making $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month for like, 2 to 6 hours, pretty good hourly wage. So,
Yeah, we call it now, it's leveraged time. Like
yeah,
you're not swapping time for money anymore. And yeah, to your point, that's spot on. For 5 or 6 hours, you're making $5,000 to $10,000 a month. Once you've got the asset established, that works really well.
yeah,
And Greg, I should mention too, we've got clients that have very active websites, say like our travel bloggers and stuff like that, and they're doing really well. These can be full-time incomes, but they work harder at them. And same with newsletters, where we've never been a massive fan of newsletters. I'm personally on the fence with, because they're a lot more work. Even with AI, I know the gurus say you can automate them. Yeah, you can, but there's still work. Yeah, behind the scenes, like I've owned newsletter sites and stuff, but there's complexities to them. They still work. But we've got clients that have, quite active websites, but it's their full-time income. They do really well, but typically they will own other websites. And of
yeah,
course, for us too, in our community, I will mention this. So we've got travel bloggers doing really well, but also in our community that's really big now is my favorite topic, which is digital agencies. It kind of bridges the gap between this active and passive and online assets and using your digital skills. So that's worked really well for a lot of our clients in transitioning out of their careers. So they use the digital skills that they learn through, buying small websites and stuff to then do like ongoing SEO for local businesses.
yeah.
And starts out typically as a really nice side hustle so maybe for your listeners, if you've never thought of it, it might be something to consider if you're already looking out to buy websites and you've got a few skills, because I'm presuming a lot of your listeners to this podcast have a lot of skills or are intermediate at least. Maybe you could be considering buying a digital agency, because I know you guys are getting into that as well in a big
Yep.
way now, because it's not strictly I guess, like a semi-passive online website as such, but it's very close to it, similar skill sets. And they're, from my end, for your listeners' point of view, like from the coal face of seeing total beginners absolutely hit it out of the park in terms of they're blitzing it with digital agencies. I am surprised at how well they're doing, and they're quitting their jobs to do this full time. So that's been a really interesting space for us. So maybe for your listeners, they could consider, like it could do the roll up thing with digital agencies. If you got a bit of money, you could buy 3 or 4 and bolt them together and sell them down the track. And I'm imagining that's what you've probably got high end clients doing that.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Like what you're describing to me is something I've often told people, like kind of like the evolution, right? You start with
Yeah,
the affiliate sites, you move into an agency, and like the cool thing about agencies, even though they're definitely nowhere near as passive as an affiliate site that's set up,
no,
but you can make a lot more money way quicker with
hell
an
yeah,
agency, right? You get like as long as you have a little bit of sales chops, you know what you're doing, like you can make
yeah,
a lot more money quicker. But the other cool thing, man, like there's another step in there which is kind of like full circle with your where you started with the manufacturing buying, is like I have friends that they went through this journey where they bought affiliate sites, got into local SEO or some kind of marketing agency, right? And now I have one friend, he's bought like 5 local businesses that have terrible marketing, because like most local
perfect.
marketing or
Yes,
most local companies have terrible marketing, and your competitors are not much better in the market. Like I remember seeing this
that is
DJ
awesome.
like wedding singer website. I think it was like
Yep.
somewhere in Colorado. You go to the website, music just starts bursting out like ducks. I'm like, what the hell is this? And all this confetti is flying across the
Oh
website.
no.
You can't even click the button to call because the confetti graphics are like covering up the CTA.
Oh
And like, what is going
yeah.
on with this? I'm about to have like a stroke looking at this like strobe light
Yep.
website. So like that's your competition, right? It's not like you're going up against like Nike executives, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of times I would say it's easier than in a lot of the affiliate markets. So I
That
have
is
friends who are now
cool.
buying these local marketing businesses for next to
Yep.
nothing, right? just like crushing it because they know how to generate a lead and none of the local business owners do, right? So there's
Yeah.
so many paths you can cut. But we're coming up on time, and I do want to get to the rapid fire section. I feel like
All right.
I'll have to bring you back on because I have way more questions to ask you. But I have three quick questions for you. Do you have three quick answers for me, my friend?
I do. I'm looking forward to it. Let's see what they are.
All right, great. No pressure. This is the most important part of the interview. So,
Oh, okay. Thanks, Greg. Great. Here I
no
was having
worries.
fun, cruising along, thoroughly enjoying myself here.
Chill, and now it is the opposite.
All right. So I got to swallow and tense up, huh? All right.
In your view, what are the best hidden growth opportunities within the online business world today?
Exactly what we've talked about today, which is finding those little passion sites that people have neglected. That's definitely a big winner. And then the one I'm really excited about is digital agencies now. And I think this idea of, once you get good with a digital agency, go around and buy up small digital agencies and add them into yours, and then do a big exit through Empire Flippers for 7 figures
Yeah.
down the track, and then come and tell me about it and get on our podcast. So,
100% agree, especially the
yep,
Empire Flippers part. Great advice,
yep.
best advice. All right, question number two. What tools or resources could help people on their journey to grow a portfolio of digital assets?
These days, AI, AI, and AI. It is unreal. It
You
is.
use AI to find the other AIs.
Yeah, and we use them all. So both Liz and I and our team. So where we use Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini. If people want the details, Liz prefers Gemini. I like Claude and ChatGPT, but I am going to lean towards Gemini. So I know there's all the old school tools like SEMrush and stuff like that. I think it'll all be replaced within even the next 6 months. It just learn. If I can give you one big bit of advice for your listeners, is learn one of those AI platforms. It'll handle pretty much everything within the next 12 months anyway. So Gemini in particular is looking absolutely amazing. Just some of the stuff that the results we get. We do a lot of keyword research, the deep research and stuff. It is mind-blowingly good. It has replaced
Really?
all our keyword research tools now. And for doing due diligence, it is absolutely brilliant. I trust Gemini more than I would trust SEMrush and all those. I get way more out of it.
Wow, that's cool. I haven't used Gemini for that. So I haven't used Gemini, to be fair, very much at all. I need to. I've used the other ones, but yeah.
Yeah, people are. I don't think us online people realize just how in depth Gemini is in terms of the research, and it just knocks out due diligence reports for us in even with really simple prompts. But it is literally going over all the websites that I would look at. Like there'll be 150. In the old days, it would take me 6 hours, right, to do
Yeah.
full due diligence and keyword research. Like I literally jokingly say to my clients that I used to love doing it on a Saturday, and damn it, now I can't because it can be done in 5 minutes by Liz with Gemini. And she stirs me all the time live in front of people. But it is, I've got to admit, it is mind blowing what it's doing. Even just takes about 5 minutes. And the sites that it's sourcing are exactly the same sites that I'm going to manually and using all the other tools. So the best tool these days, it's Gemini, an AI platform of some kind.
I have another hidden gem to add on top. I'd be curious if you use it, let me know if you like. I really liked it. I don't see like really anyone talk about it. It's called GenSpark. It's like a super agent basically. It's kind of like a Manus competitor if you're familiar with Manus.
Oh, yeah, I use Manus. That's on this computer that I'm on now. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's like a cheaper and I think better version of Manus because it has like a
Oh,
couple extra
wow.
agents, but it
Okay.
has like everything, like, and it goes out to all the different LLMs, right, as well. So I've been using it to like create slides, like spreadsheet analysis, stuff like that.
Ah,
It's powerful though. Like I wrote a whole lead magnet, and for perspective, when I wrote this lead magnet, I had already written it
yep.
like the old way, like human way, and then
Yeah.
I rewrote it using GenSpark, like added in my tone, all this kind of stuff. And I didn't give it like the source material. I just gave it a bit about me, my YouTube channel, blah, blah, blah. And like, man, it actually covers some stuff I forgot. It sounds
Yeah.
like me.
It,
Like I still had to edit everything, but like, man, that's amazing. So even the
Greg, I
slides
think you'd
are
be
like great.
surprised with just how good even ChatGPT is now. So what we do is and I'll give your listeners two other big powerful tools for those of you that are into AI and you want to automate a lot of stuff across your websites. We use, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners heard of it, but we do use a lot Make. We like that. And N8N. And we've got a bunch of clients that are really, depends, N8N's a little bit more complex, but it just helps us automate so much of our
Yeah.
processes now and Make. But I think the holy grail is like Gemini or ChatGPT or Claude, one of those three. And in the next 12 months, it's going to be mind-blowing what it can handle for us online, for people that own online businesses. But go Google. I'm seriously impressed.
I'm going to check out Gemini based on your recommendation because I've been meaning to do it. I just have not gotten around to it. All right, final question. That turned into more of a discussion than a rapid fire, but so interesting. Final question. What has been your funniest moment working in the online business world?
Okay, so, all right, there's a few here, but the one that is amusing, which nearly wasn't, because it involved Liz, my wife, and her favorite website. So we often run our own sites and stuff, but we also work on each other's sites. I start very early in the mornings here in Australia, and she's still in bed. And she was doing a big launch on one of her favorite websites. It's an info product site. It's going to be big, and she'd done a lot of work to it. And I'm working for some dumbass reason. Sorry, I shouldn't swear. I decide that morning.
Guys, totally fine. I swear.
The day of the launch, I get up at 4:30 in the morning to work on her bloody site. And I was pretty proud of what I was doing. And this was a few years ago. And it crashed because of the changes that I made. I tried to make some technical changes. I'm not technical. Liz is very technical. Well, when I say I'm not reasonably technical, but Liz is really good. She knows how to hand program websites, all that sort of stuff, code and everything. But she's in bed, and I knew she would be so peeved at, like, literally, I got that adrenaline rush, the heart dropping, and there's a blank screen and going, this is really, really bad. We're about to launch quite a significant big launch, and the site's just dead. It's gone. Our techie was overseas. He lives in Mexico. He was based in Mexico. So he's not on my time zone at 4:30 a.m. No, he's in Spain. Sorry, in Spain. He wasn't on my time zone there. He wasn't available. So I'm stuck. And I never say panic, Greg, because I'm cool and calm, but man, I was very close to panicking. But then I realized this was in the early days when we started with, and I'm a big fan of it now, is that I think it's called Updraft Plus, the backup plugin on WordPress. Or was it Backup Buddy? Because we use them, all these different backup plugins. I think it was Updraft Plus at the time. Had this big green button that said restore. And I'm thinking, do I hit that? Okay. So I refreshed the screen and hit that button, and it came back. And I was like, oh,
I'm a genius.
So that was my funniest moment. And I didn't dare tell her until after the next day. And it was a very successful launch. And ever since then, she just looks at me and goes, do not touch my websites, Matt Raad. So that's my funny moment.
I feel like that's one of those like marketers rite of passages that everyone eventually does. Usually, and almost always, it will eventually happen where it's the email. Yep. Like you send out an email with like a massive typo or just like completely missing the wrong thing, and it goes out to like 100,000 people. Like,
yeah, we haven't had that. We've nearly had that happen. I do typos all the time, but not these days because we use AI. But the moral from my story, it was quite funny, and all our community, like Liz used to tell that at our workshops and stuff. But the moral to the story is, like Liz says to everyone, make sure you're doing your backups, because luckily we did have that backup. And when I hit the restore button, it went back to her version, not mine. And then I left it. And so make sure you're backing up all the time. Don't rely on the cPanel backups all the time as well.
Well, Matt, we're at the end of the podcast, but I would like to promote your community and what you're doing. I'm a big fan. So if someone wants to, connect with you, either to pick your brain or maybe look at what you're doing in terms of your mentorship, where should we send people?
Yeah, they can visit our main website, which is ebusinessinstitute.com.au. It's an Australian website, but we do have a lot of American clients in our community as well. So ebusinessinstitute.com.au. Or you can check out our Digital Investors podcast, of which you're on there, Greg. So and thank you so much and Greg often comes and speaks to our community as well, which has added massive value. So I want to say a big thank you to yourself for sharing some really cool tips and stories with our community as well. So thank you.
Always a pleasure, my friend. We'll put those links in the show notes. I highly recommend everyone go check out what Matt's doing. I think it's great. And Matt, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate it.
Awesome. My pleasure, Greg. Thanks for having me.
There you have it. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it got you inspired.
at all the different things that are happening in this industry. And of course, if you just want to buy a highly profitable business, you can always go to empireflippers.com/marketplace, or maybe you want to make an exit of your highly profitable business, and you could go to empireflippers.com/sell your site. I've been your host, Greg. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you leave a review, give us a like, a follow, share it across social media. Talk to you all soon. See you on the next episode.